Let's wrap things up with something I think that's going to affect the baseball card business here. A little bit of a news that kind of has gone under the kind of gone under the radar here, as it's been reported. Something that will be happening next year, the 2021 MLB draft. This year, I was watching the draft probably more than I ever have, albeit there was nothing on TV for sports, but I was into it, and I think a lot more people were into it. So I think baseball is both capitalizing on that, and obviously the college baseball schedule might be a little bit different with college sports really in flux right now. So the MLB draft has been moved up 1 month, and it's actually going to take place in Atlanta during All-Star Weekend, and I think this is a great idea. The All-Star Game is in Atlanta next year, and so you're going to have all of these top prospects during the day. I'm assuming they'll have the MLB draft. You'll have all of these draftees, young players who are going to be at the forefront of the biggest week for baseball other than the World Series, and guys who are not only going to be on TV for a lot of fans who don't know them, but also be interacting with the best players in baseball over that whole week, which is just a cool thing for them, great experience. I think this is a fantastic idea. I think more exposure for this and more baseball taking advantage of the spotlight that they have in the middle of July, which is the most dead month of sports on the calendar other than Major League Baseball. And I think, too, to frame it for the hobby, I think that you are going to see guys that maybe were not as well known, or maybe were known to, you maybe get 2 or 3 or 4 really well-known names coming out of a draft. I think that number skyrockets now if you do this and do it every year, where there's a lot more attention, and I think it could be something really beneficial for hobbyists who are looking maybe for an even wider array of cards and of players to start to add to their collection early on.
I think it's a great idea. If I'm not mistaken, I think the week leading up to the All-Star Game, generally, depending on the city, is they usually have the type of fan fest deal where, like, they'll bring down memorabilia. They basically have a whole. I know they do it for. I know they did it for the NHL All-Star Game. I know when it was in AT&T, they have a whole week event where you can go just check out different things, different memorabilia. They have like some players come down who maybe they're just doing autographs and meet and greets and stuff like that. A lot of games for like kids and whatnot. I think it's a great idea. I think it's great to get more eyeballs on the draft. I think the baseball draft, unlike the football draft and the basketball draft, gets kind of lost in the shuffle of when it happens. I think the other drawback, and you can't really do anything about this, is that unlike baseball or unlike football and basketball, where the player gets selected, they're going to be generally on your team performing next year if they're a high pick. Where baseball, it's kind of the long play. Some of these kids are coming out of high school. They may have to go through the farm system for 3-4 years, so you may not actually see them on your team for 3 to 4 years. And I think that's just a drawback in the process of the MLB draft. Anyway, there's nothing they can really do about it. It's just... it's harder to get to the major leagues than, if there's, basketball only has 2 rounds. Baseball, I think this year was weird, right? It had 5 rounds.
Yeah, 5 rounds. I think next year it's going to 20 rounds, and I think they're trying to keep it a little smaller from here on out. Obviously, something we talked about a few episodes ago, minor league baseball is still on pace to be shrinking next year. There's going to be less teams in minor league baseball, so less teams equals less rounds where you're going to need to draft guys, less places you're going to have to put guys. So I think that 20-round number is probably something we're going to see not only next year, but maybe it goes up a little bit, but I think they want to stick around that number.
But another thing, we were saying was getting these draft picks to be able to hang out with the best players in the world at that event.
Yeah.
The being able to, I mean, it's going to be a heck of an experience for the players getting drafted to basically probably be able to go to the All-Star game and be able to probably meet the Mike Trouts and the top players in the league. It'll be a great event all around. I don't know why they didn't think about it before.
Yeah.
But it probably had. It's actually a weird timing in June as well, because if
College World Series is
if I'm
happening.
not mistaken, they basically do it right when a lot of these players are playing the most important games of their college career.
Exactly.
So you want to talk about a distraction. Think about if you're in the middle of the College World Series run and you're sitting there talking to your agent trying to figure out where you're going to go in the draft, but you're trying to focus on winning a national title. That's a lot going on for a kid who's like, 21.
And I think that maybe the NCAA might say, boy, doing this is going to take attention away from the College World Series, because such a big thing is, oh, this guy is going to be drafted by the Tigers. He's going to be there next year. This guy's going to be on the Yankees next year. Let's watch him. But I think it might actually have the opposite effect, where there could be guys who were maybe a 4th or 5th round pick going into the College World Series, and then, like what happens during March Madness in basketball, a guy has a huge run in the College World Series, and suddenly that 3rd or 4th round pick becomes like a 2nd round pick or a 1st round pick because the national spotlight's on them. So I think it actually, if they play their cards right, if they do this right, they could make it like, we're going to make stars in the College World Series more than has ever happened before, because these guys are already drafted and snatched up by the time the World Series is happening. And you also have a whole month of build-up where after that College World Series is over, we could have what basketball and football and all the other sports have always had when it comes to drafting, actual like combines, actual workouts where you can invite the greatest players in college and in high school to all come to one place. MLB Network could air it if they want to, like the NFL does, where we can watch a baseball combine on TV to get us really hyped for the draft. I think this is a really good idea altogether. I'd say even go a step further to get people into the draft. If you're going to have it in July, why not have the ability to trade draft picks here? Let's finally do that, because now you're 2 or 3 weeks before the trade deadline. Imagine it's All-Star week or right after the All-Star game. You can actually trade draft picks now. So now the draft is not only all this young talent that we may know a little bit more about, have a whole month to really acclimate to these new names, but there's also the added incentive of maybe you hear about a big trade that happens in the draft. I would keep adding on, and if I'm baseball, see what you can do to really get eyes glued on the MLB draft during a time where there's nothing else. I'd
take it even a step further. I'd love to see, and they would obviously have to be able to sign their contracts, and I know there's sometimes there's an issue with baseball where, depending on where they get drafted, it seems like there's certain players. I remember, I think Mark Appel was a top pick, and he was drafted by the Pirates and didn't sign and ended up going back to college, and he actually played at Stanford, and he ended up coming out the next year, and he got drafted by the Astros, and he did sign. So some guys, like, they can come out of the draft a junior, not like their slot where they got drafted, or the team that drafted them, they don't really see themselves as a good fit there, and go back to college, which is bizarre. Unlike you can't do that in basketball. You can't basically go into the draft and go, well, I got drafted by the Magic. I don't really want to play for the Magic. I'm going to go back for my senior year. Maybe something they should look at doing. But that's a weird thing with baseball that they do. I don't know why the Mark Appel thing just went in my head, but I would love to see a home run derby with some of the top prospects at the All-Star game. So not only you're getting eyeballs and these kids are getting drafted by their teams, but you take some of the best hitters out of that draft, maybe the top 5 or 6, and you have a little extra home run derby to show their skills on the same stage as some of the greatest players in the world.
I would love that. That would be a really, really cool event if you could do that.
And then if you're a fan of that team that drafted, you get a little instant gratification taste of what this kid can do.
It could be something, you do it like right before the home run derby,
Yep.
where you could have just a shorter, like, hey, here are like the top 4 hitters or top 6 hitters, and they're going to do a quick home run derby or something like that,
Very
or
similar
a hitting
to-
contest or something.
Yeah,
you know?
very similar to the Futures game.
Yeah.
But just do it with that year's draft picks. And
I love it.
I think it would be a blast for the players. It would be a blast for the fans. The fans would love it. It would be cool. And plus, it would give you, like I said, a little taste, because you're probably not going to see this player on your team for 2, 3, maybe even 4 years. So it'll give you somebody to remember and watch through their farm system. So you can basically follow their career and be like, I remember I saw them at this home run derby. I'm going to see how well they're doing in the minors every year as they make their step to the bigs.
I think that's such a cool idea. I think just take, really reiterate what all of this is doing. Just take advantage of that moment in the sports calendar where, like, you are number one. And if you have something like that where you're building your sport for the future, somebody could watch some guy win the amateur home run derby, and then 4 years down the road, hey, I remember that guy.
Yep.
They're already in our minds, our collective mindset as sports fans. I'd go a step further. I've got my World Baseball Classic shirt on. I love that event. I think that when you have that, have the semifinals and finals during the All-Star week or like around that time, and just keep driving interest for this sport. You got to take advantage of that moment. So I think more stuff during that week, during that All-Star week, is a great thing, especially for the draft, where I think the possibilities are endless. And like I said, for card collectors, I think this is going to be a huge boon to have even more names that are known right out of the gate.